Okay, hello. It is your boy back at it again with another video. And today the general theme of this video is critical thinking. I want you guys to look at something and just basically go a little bit deeper. Just think about why certain things exist. It's a little bit like English class, if any of you have taken it or remember it from like 12th grade or whatever. They'll give you like an advert and they'll say, okay, analyze the persuasive techniques. That's actually a pretty good skill, and what I want you to do is I want you to extrapolate that a little bit more. So let's look at Andrew Bustamante. So Andrew Bustamante is this new CIA spy podcaster going around telling everybody about basically how the CIA recruits people, how to be like a cool guy, how to be charismatic, how to lie to people, how to like fake polygraphs or whatever the fuck. And the first thing I want you to do is I want you to basically pay attention to his appearance, right? This long hair is actually new. Originally, he had short hair. And this bandana, think about this necklace or whatever, and the beard, right? He looks very hip. In fact, he described himself as a hippie as well. He calls himself, I think, progressive and things like that. He comes off as being friendly and cool or whatever on the podcasts, right? And yeah, he's obviously progressive, which means we can get a rough gauge of where his politics align. And this is pretty funny because if you look at history, again, history and context is also very important. Intelligence agencies, we'll look at US as an example right now, but it's the same everywhere else. Intelligence agencies have always meddled in political affairs and destroyed certain political groups. Back in the late 1900s, during things like the Vietnam War, many intelligence agencies would try to disrupt groups that were against the Vietnam War. And it's really funny because Andrew Bustamante actually said during the Vietnam War, America was united, which is the biggest lie and revisionism of history I've ever heard. Okay, maybe not ever heard, but you get the point. And another thing I want you guys to think about is think about his backstory as well. So apparently, this guy, he's not in the CIA anymore. That's what he says, but we'll get into that. So he met his wife in the CIA as well. Wow, that's kind of fucking weird if you think about it, because usually if two people are fucking in work, or if Bob is fucking Alice, with the cryptography key exchange, that's a problem in software development. You can't have your coworkers fucking around. It just leads to problems. And you're telling me that this guy in the CIA, he is fucking his coworker. Just think about how ridiculous that is, right? And then he basically said he had kids. And then one day he did something in Afghanistan or the Middle East or something, all right? And he felt kind of scared for his life or something. And then he just decided to leave the CIA. So the CIA, or intelligence agencies in general, for those of you who don't know, they invest a lot in their, we'll call them pawns, weirdly enough. He calls Edward Snowden a pawn, but in my opinion, he's a fucking pawn. This is a shitty drawing of a pawn, but whatever. They invest a lot in their pawns, okay? They teach them a lot of languages, they teach them a lot of skills, and they get them in high corporate positions. And basically, Andrew Bustamante's exit story is out of Hollywood, man. I'm straight up telling you. He says that he was working for somebody, and one day he went up to them and said, oh, hey, my entire resume is fake, but I have the skills though, but it's like a cover, you know what I mean? Like, guys, this is not reality. This is the kind of stuff you hear in literal movies. Like, you should hear that and you should think about it, and it shouldn't make any sense to you at all, because it is, in my opinion, all fake and made up. The CIA invests all of this resources into him. He had nuclear access. He had access to nuclear weapons. He had the codes, and he talks about it as well. Think about how weird that is. And now you're telling me he had all of this, and he leaves it, right? One of the most trusted high clearance motherfuckers in the United States, and now he's a spy crash course podcaster. Like, guys, just again, critical thinking. Think about this for a few seconds. This cannot happen. It makes zero sense. Either he's lying about having access to nuclear codes or whatever, or my favorite explanation is he still works for the CIA. That's right, guys. This should come as no shock. It should not even be a surprise. But Andrew Bustamante is a plant by the CIA. The reason he exists is to... Okay, everybody knows intelligence agencies in the US. I mean, I would argue in the world, all intelligence agencies are full of shit. But in the US, they have committed lots of crimes. Not only crimes outside, but domestic. They have committed crimes against their own people. MK Ultra, search that up. In fact, there are so many fucking experiments, which I don't even need to talk about. It is common knowledge that they have done a lot of crimes against Americans. They have intervened in political affairs as well. They have targeted political rivals of the Overton window at the time. Earlier, it was right-wing during the late 1900s, and now it is simply left-wing, which is why he has the hippie outlook here. Back then, the NWA, right? During the late 1900s, being a rapper or whatever would get you targeted, because back then the culture was like, ooh, everybody wore suits or whatever, and now it's just hippieism or leftism or like a certain branch of hippieism. You get the point. He exists to draw attention away from those crimes and on how cool everything is. Hey guys, look at me, I'm cool. I'm just like you. I'm a hippie. I like playing the guitar. I like my video games. I like my porn. Haha. I think he literally...
I will give them the passwords to every one of my accounts. Want to know what my favorite genre on Pornhub is?
Literally made a joke about that once, which... I mean, guys, stay away from pornography for fuck's sake. But you get the point, right? Oh, look at me, I'm like you. And what he wants to do is he wants to make a more positive perception of the CIA. That is why he's here, right? And that theory makes a lot of sense. It's not a conspiracy theory, and I'll tell you why. Because he himself admitted that I am doing this to, quote-unquote, honor people in intelligence. And now let's look at some of his views. All right, so one of the main people this Andrew Bustamante guy bashes on is obviously Edward Snowden. He says Edward Snowden was a traitor, and he tries to be diplomatic about it. And that's another main thing. He tries to be incredibly diplomatic. Why? Because he wants to increase the positive perception. He wants to convince people that, hey, the CIA is totally a good organization, guys. Trust them, and give up your data, and Edward Snowden was a traitor. So he'll say things like, oh yes, so Snowden stole a lot of secrets from the US, and he used it to buy plane tickets across all of the US's enemies, I don't know how to fucking hell, right? He said he went to, Edward Snowden went to like Ecuador or whatever, right? Like he flew to all of these places which are traditionally quote unquote enemies of the United States. And basically he sold secrets, and this is the main part, he compromised security for the American people. That's Andrew Bustamante's main claim. That is why Edward Snowden is a bad guy, because he compromised security for the American people. Again, I want you to listen to what that means. He said people, even though intelligence agencies and organizations in general can commit crimes against people and their own people. Again, if you look at history, who committed the greatest crimes? It was organizations, and they committed crimes against their own people. The Nazi regime was a legal organization in Germany, right? Just think about that. And essentially, if you look at the views he promotes, what Andrew Bustamante, and he supports mass surveillance as well, that should come as no shock either. He says, oh yeah, guys, if the government collects a bunch of metadata, but it prevents 10 terrorist attacks and saves like 10 lives, then it's a good thing. There was a clip about him saying, it's like, oh, I'll tell you what kind of porn I watch and how I fuck my wife and all this stuff. I think he was trying to make a leftist joke. I'll find that clip and play it for you.
Guess how much I care about my rights to privacy? Man, NSA can clone my phone. 0. I will give them my children's phone. Check me out, guys. I will give them the passwords to every one of my accounts. Want to know what my favorite genre on Pornhub is? If it means that there's a likelihood that my family will be safer. Want to know how to make love to my wife from a nefarious actor who's intent on hurting us? Want to see what...
And basically he makes all these jokes to come off as a hippie and basically support mass surveillance. And another thing Andrew Bustamante promotes a lot is basically this war narrative, this Cold War enemy narrative. And I'm going to debunk that entire narrative right here. Are you ready for this? Okay, let's take China. China is considered an enemy of the United States, right? The CCP. And don't get me wrong when I say I think the CCP is a horrible organization. I'm not trying to defend the CCP. I'm not trying to defend Islamic regimes in the Middle East. I think all of them are, they violate human rights like crazy. But Andrew Bustamante wants you to think that the US is at like an enemy, right? Like a Cold War against these people, and Edward Snowden and all these people are bad because they help these guys. All right, let's talk about this narrative. So the US, let's look at the US first. Oh, by the way, I'm not saying the US is the same as China. I understand they're very different, but I think there are global overarching patterns that exist virtually everywhere in the entire world. This green thing here is the wealthy corporations in the country. It represents the wealthy corporations in the country. This blue thing here represents governmental organizations in the country. And as you'll know, they are mostly linked together. And this red thing includes intelligence agencies within the country. All right, so this will be one minority. And all of this white stuff here represents the average American people. Similar thing in China. You can also make this South Korea. Right, you have your corporations. You have the 4 corporations. I think they're called Chaebol corporations or something. Samsung, SG, and like I think Hyundai or whatever. But you get the point. You have the corporate class, you got your fucking governmental agencies, and you got intelligence agencies. And what Andrew Bustamante is trying to say is these people are at war with these people. He's trying to make that narrative to increase hostility between these two groups. But the truth is, the people who are really at war is simply these corporations and these governmental organizations and those intelligence organizations. And these organizations are basically competing with these other organizations to control larger populations and more resources. This is kind of how during the Iraq War was basically started for oil. The point of the Iraq War was to simply increase the power of these three organizations, not to bring any prosperity to Americans. Again, if you think at every war in America, name one war in America which actually made the average American richer. And I think war's pretty bad. I don't think fucking with other countries is a good thing. But the justification these agencies use all the time is, oh yeah, we are fucking with these other countries and we are increasing prosperity for Americans. But that's not true. That has never happened throughout American history. In fact, cost of living is going up, inflation is going up, and wages are staying steady or they're increasing very slightly. You know what I mean? Like the Iraq War did not bring any prosperity to the average American citizen, and it did not bring them more security either. And same thing with China, right? So they want you to believe this narrative. So what they want you to do is they want you to support these agencies, right? Blind trust in these agencies, and just trust that these agencies operating with unlimited power and unlimited budget. That's right, people. The CIA in the US has an unlimited budget, and you are not allowed to audit it due to national security concerns. They are allowed to write as many checks as they want to, and no one's allowed to even check. And they want you to believe that these organizations winning, gaining more control, ironically over their own people, because the CIA spies on their own people, CIA, NSA, all these people spy on their own people a lot. And they want you to believe that as these guys win, as they get richer, as they get more powerful, as they get more control, that the average American is going to profit. A very similar thing in China. The CCP actually steals a lot of money from Chinese citizens, but they keep the faith maintained. So they think when the CCP gets richer, the Chinese people will get richer. But that is simply not the case. And here's another grim reality that I want to point out. When nuclear wars happen, these guys are going to be fine. It is these populations that are going to be killed off. So when the nukes are launched, this white stuff here, the average Chinese person, they're all going to die. This white stuff here, oh lol, white stuff, get it? The average American person, these are the populations that are going to be blown up. The president, he's going to escape in his bunker. The corporations, they're going to escape to their own islands or whatever. I think Mark Zuckerberg has like a legit like doomsday prepped island or some shit. And the intelligence agencies as well. They're going to know this happens way in advance, and they're going to prepare and they're going to evacuate. And this is why the war narrative doesn't really make much sense. When countries go to war, the country that quote unquote wins, the citizens of that country rarely become more prosperous. Same thing with Russia versus Ukraine. Even if Russia quote unquote wins the war, whatever that means, you really think the average Russian is going to become richer? You think they're going to get more vodka, my guy? No, they're not. The reason narratives like this exist is to simply get you to worship the organizations in your own country, give up your power and rights to them, give up your wealth to them so they can, one, ironically enough, control you the most. These intelligence agencies do not really exist to fuck over China or liberate China. They exist mostly to watch you. During the NSA mass surveillance, American citizens were the ones who had the most data collected on them. Not the Chinese, not the Russians, not the fucking Austrians, not quote unquote enemies of the United States. No, their own citizens. Which is why Edward Snowden said, Obama is not scared of Edward Snowden. Obama is scared of an angry population that is going to hold him accountable. Again, I'll take, for example, things like Michael Hastings, who, well, let's just say he died, quote unquote, in a quote unquote car crash the second he started investigating the CIA. This is what the CIA does. They, for lack of a better word, are criminals and thugs. Same thing with the NSA, and same thing with intelligence agencies across the world. I'm not trying to say, intelligence agencies in the Middle East or whatever are good. I don't think Hamas, like, come on, the Middle East has shit like Hamas. You know what I mean? This is a real faith, okay? These are fake faiths. They want to reduce religion in the United States so you believe in these guys more. That's literally it. I'm a Christopher Hitchens fan, don't get me wrong. But nowadays, people go from worshipping Jesus or whatever to basically worshipping Microsoft, CIA, NSA. And that is exactly why Andrew Bustamante exists. He is a hippie. He has the leftist drip. He met his wife in the CIA. He watches porn, guys. He watches porn. okay? He's just like you, right? We reduce the religion, and I'm not even saying that's necessarily a bad thing or a good thing, but the point I'm trying to make is it's simply being replaced. These guys are plants, okay? Andrew Bustamante is a CIA plant in media, in just general media, to get you to basically like the CIA more, to get you to buy into these war narratives. So when the nukes come flying, you're all gonna fucking die. These guys are gonna have all the wealth and all the power. Same thing in China, CCP and all of their affiliates or businesses that support them. They're gonna get pretty fucking rich. And you guys, the people, are going to suffer more at the hands of the intelligence agencies, government, giant corporations, etc. And the deep state is going to keep running. Same thing with the deep state in China. And yeah, drink the Kool-Aid, people. Trust these guys. They've never done anything wrong in the past. And if they did do something wrong in the past, it's for the prosperity, quote unquote, of the Americans. It's for democracy and liberty. If Chinese people did bad, if Chinese intelligence agencies did bad things, it's for the CCP. It's the same shit. So yeah, guys, please think critically and just understand that agendas exist out there. When you see this guy on a fucking podcast talking about, oh yeah, I know how to lie, this is how you lie. He's doing it to you, motherfucker. He's telling you who he is, okay? Ironically enough. And yeah, there's no such thing as an ex-CIA agent unless they're fucking dead. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. Please use that little noggin of yours, use your neurons, stay sober, okay? Don't, like, I know this guy watches porn, but that doesn't mean you should. Don't play too many video games either. Okay, I know this guy plays a lot of video games. I know this guy's a hippie. And being a hippie is fine, but you get the point, guys. Everything in moderation. Be careful of shit and use your fucking brain. Thank you for watching this video. And remember, stay free, people. Yeah, bye.